We're talking about disability today, and looks like and we've got a live Q&A as well. If you got any questions about all things disability, Social Security, retirement, survivor benefits, make sure you type it down in the chat down there. Someone said the thumbnails are exaggerated. Not necessarily so. Okay, so today we're talking about disability benefits and about all the 500,000 people that are going to lose disability benefits in 2025. Actually, it's not an exaggeration. It's actually twice that amount. So there's probably, I'm going by 2023 numbers. We're looking at about 800,000 people that lost Social Security disability benefits in 2023. That's the last numbers available. This year, it's probably going to be about 1 million. Okay, so I put 500,000. So it was actually less than, not an exaggeration, it was half. And there's 4 reasons people lose disability benefits. One is a terrible reason. We'll talk about that. Number 2 and number 3 could go either way. It could be a good reason you lose disability or a bad reason you lose disability. Number 4 is the main one I want to talk about here today is the 500,000 people that lose disability benefits for this particular reason. And it is a very good reason if you know you've lost your disability benefits. I see a lot of people that come through my live Q&A and are making their lives very, very difficult because they don't know about number 4. So let's go down the list and show you exactly what I mean. All right. Again, this is also a live Q&A, so make sure if you've got any specific questions. And I've also come up with a work guide that I'll share here. All right. Number 1 is obviously people lose disability, people lose retirement benefits, people lose Medicare because of the fact that we don't last forever. So people shuffle off their mortal coil unalive and just pass away. And obviously, so that's one of the reasons people lose their benefits every month. Every year. And hopefully that doesn't happen to you for another 50, 60, 70 years. Okay, so that's an obvious one. Number 2 reason people lose disability benefits is medical reasons. Okay, and this could go either way. This could be very good for you or not so much. Social Security, as you know, for people on disability, receives CDRs, continuing disability reviews. And there's 2 versions of CDRs. There's a medical CDR and a work CDR. We'll start with number 2 here. And number 3, obviously, you know what number 3 is going to be at work. So a medical. So either you or the Social Security Administration determine you are no longer disabled according to Social Security rules and regulations. There was a new medication that was invented, there was a new surgery, whatever the case may be. This could be very, very good for you. You're better now. You're able to go back to work. You're able to do what you need to do. You've got your medical disability under control, and it's a beautiful thing. Hopefully that happens to you, and you don't have to receive, Social Security disability. You can go out into the world and do what you want. The other side of that same coin is if Social Security says you are no longer disabled under Social Security rules and regulations, and you disagree with that, but they say based on the CDR, you get the CDR every year, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever the case may be. You get that CDR, and then Social Security determines, okay, they do the medical evaluation, and they talk to your doctors and clinics and all that kind of stuff, and they determine unilaterally that, yep, this person is no longer disabled, so we're going to go ahead and kick them off. And you say, no, that's not the case. I'm still disabled. So that's a bad reason. That's the other side of that coin. And remember, you always have appeal rights when that happens. So if they do a CDR, a continuing disability review, a medical CDR, and they determine that you're no longer able to, or that you're able to work, you're no longer disabled, and you disagree with it, make sure you fight it. You file the appeal. Once you get the decision letter, it'll tell you at the bottom. If you disagree with this decision, you have 60 days to appeal, usually about 65. But there's exceptions there. So hopefully you know about the exceptions I talk about several times. Make sure you subscribe and like and all that kind of good stuff so you keep up to date. But you file the SSA 561 request for reconsideration, and then someone else takes a look at it and determines whether the first decision was made accurately. Okay, so medical CDR. So hundreds of thousands of people get kicked off of Social Security every year because for whatever reason, they're medically improved, whether they believe so or not. Number three is work. So the other part, the other type of CDR, continuing disability review, it's a work-based CDR. It's not necessarily that your medical situation, your disability is improved. You are just able now to work through it. So I always explain it like this. You know, the guy that started Social Security, FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 1935, he had polio. He was disabled, but he was able to work through it. So was he disabled? Yes. Was he qualified for disability under the program he started? No. Actually, disability was started later, but anyway. But Social Security would say, no, you're not disabled because you're able to work. Stephen Hawking, the physicist, he was working. He was able to work. So he was disabled, but not disabled according to Social Security rules. So if Social Security finds out that you're working, you notify Social Security, or they get some type of alert that you are working. Then they will send you this work CDR and say, hey, it looks like you're disabled, but you're able to work through it. And work is a little bit more complicated. And my new website that I'm working on now, I've come up with a guide, a step-by-step guide, because a lot of people out there are on disability and they're scared to work because they don't know how to kind of navigate the system. And here's the thing about working while receiving Social Security, and I'm only talking about SSDI today. I'm not talking about SSI because that's a whole different ball of wax. Social Security disability insurance. When you receive Social Security disability insurance, Social Security Congress wrote the laws that they want you to go back to work if you're able to. These are called work incentives, right? It's good for you. You're able to go back to work, make more money, contribute to society, get out of the house. The disability trust fund is no longer being used. You're paying taxes. Everybody loves it when you pay taxes and all the rest of that stuff. So there are a lot of work incentives to see if you can go back to work, but they're very, very hard to navigate. And a lot of people get in trouble because they don't know the situation and what they can do. So I've come up with kind of a guide here that I'm still working on, making it a little bit easier to read, but this is the trial work period. So step one is the trial work period. And I'm going to put this PDF, this is the kind of the beginning of it. I'm going to make it a little bit easier to understand. But I'm going to put this early example in my YouTube description. So after I finish the live Q&A today, I will link this in my YouTube description. And there's a lot of places that says, hey, if you want this newsletter, you want this, that, and the other, then, if you want this guide, then subscribe. I'm not going to make you subscribe. If you want to subscribe to the channel and, throw a couple of bucks here, I'd appreciate it. But you use this, it's yours for free. But make sure you check back later because I'm still working on this, but to make it look pretty and stuff. So the trial work period, you've got for 2025, you're allowed to work for 9 months. And these months do not need to be consecutive. You can work for 9 months. You can make $1 billion a month for 9 months. And there's no issues whatsoever because Social Security, Congress wrote the laws like this. They said, we want you to see if you can go back to work. That's why they call it a trial work period. You go back to work, and if you're able to continue, then awesome. Then, eventually we'll stop your checks. But for the first 9 months, you can work as much as you want. And again, they're not consecutive. So you can work a month and then take a few months off and work another month. And what counts as a trial work month is in 2025, it's $1,160. As soon as you hit over $1,160, then that counts as a trial work period. And a lot of people are saying, no, Ed is wrong. Substantial gainful activity is $1,620. Yes, that is correct. But we're not talking about substantial gainful activity. Substantial gainful activity doesn't come into effect until after the 9 months during the extended period of eligibility. So these are the numbers for that. For non-blind individuals, $1,620. And I've got a little note down here what counts as accountable earnings. And then after that 36 months, hopefully this is a little bit easy to understand. I gave you a little example there as well. And after that, then you go into kind of termination status. And there is a way to restart your benefits later. It's called expedited reinstatement, although anything today in Social Security is no longer expedited because of all of the people that are no longer there to help you at Social Security, but that's a whole different issue. And I'm adding on the bottom this, what happens to your Medicare during all of these times. But anyway, the initial draft of this, hopefully that'll help you out to explain what you can and can't do. I'm also coming up with kind of a calendar checklist type thing, so you know what you're doing. Okay, all right. So let's go on to the one that about 500,000, what my title suggested, about 500,000 people are going to lose their Social Security benefits. And this is a good thing that you lose your Social Security benefits, but it's bad because people don't know they lost them, and they're making their lives very, very difficult. Okay. Disability, everybody out there, if you're on disability, 100%, this is a guarantee. This is a 100% guarantee. Your disability benefits will stop. 100% guaranteed. Your disability benefits from Social Security will stop. Hopefully not for number one reason for a long time. Maybe number two, because you get better. Number three, you go back to work. But number four, if 1, 2, or 3 doesn't apply, number 4 will definitely apply. 100% your benefits will stop. And when will they stop? At your full retirement age. Disability benefits switch from disability benefits to retirement benefits once you hit your full retirement age. When's your full retirement age? Depends on your date of birth. You're born in 1960 or after, then it's 67 years old. So at 67 years old, your disability benefits will stop, 100% guaranteed. But that's good because they will just be switched from disability benefits to regular old retirement benefits. Your benefit amount will stay the same. Your check deposit will stay the same. Everything will stay the same. Medicare will stay the same. That's why people are making their lives difficult, because they don't know they've been switched. And I get people in live Q&A and comment on my channel, YouTube comments or wherever, and they say, I'm 70 years old and I'm on disability and I want to work, but I don't want to stop my disability. And somebody offered me a job last year and I could have taken it, made some more money and made my life easier, but I didn't take it because I didn't want to mess up my disability. I'm like, you just made your life very, very difficult for the past year, because you're not on disability benefits. You're on regular old retirement benefits. And because you're on retirement benefits after your full retirement age, you can make $1 billion a month. It doesn't matter anymore. So number one, your disability benefits will stop at your full retirement age. So you no longer have any of this, old Marine Corps term, any of this BS. You don't have a trial work period. You're not in an extended period of eligibility. You don't need to worry about SGA. You don't need to worry about an EXR. You don't need to worry about any of that garbage, because it doesn't apply to you, because you're not on disability. You're on regular retirement benefits. So you can do whatever you want in terms of work. Number two, stop stressing about CDRs, continuing disability reviews, because you're not on disability. You're on regular old retirement benefits. So go on with your life. Don't sit there and every time you go out into the mailbox, worry whether you're going to have a CDR package in the mailbox like you used to do when you were on disability benefits. You're not on disability. You're on regular retirement benefits. And so basically, again, full retirement age, you switch from disability benefits to retirement benefits. Kind of a bureaucratic thing. They stop taking your money out of the disability trust fund and start taking out of the retirement trust fund. Nothing changes. That's why people don't realize it. Their check stays the same, but now they're free. They've got no more CDRs, and it's a beautiful thing. So if you know people out there, if this doesn't apply to you, this is a community channel. People that watch this channel, they go out there and they help other people around them. So if you know anybody that's on disability, tell them this situation, share this work guide, say, no, you can work, even if you're, under your full retirement age. And you're over your full retirement age, you can do whatever you want now. And you don't have to call up Social Security and worry about your disability stops because it already did. Okay. All right. Let's hopefully I cleared the air there, and hopefully we made some lives better. And if we didn't get anybody directly here with the 2,500 people that are watching live, those 2,500 people are going to go out to their communities and help people. Okay, let's answer some questions. So I'll spend the next 45 minutes answering as many questions as I possibly can. All right, let's start at the top here. Tammy, what's up, Tammy? I'm 64 and must file for benefits because I need the money. That is always a good reason. Anything I should be aware of when filing? I hope to suspend benefits at 67. Then at 70, benefits should be about the same with cuts in 2031. Wow. Tammy's been listening to the channel for a while. She is awesome. All right. So she's talking about voluntary delayed retirement credits, which a lot of people don't know. And Tammy, I put the reference for voluntary delayed retirement credits, what you're talking about. I put that reference in my YouTube description as well, because a lot of people miss that one, including, unfortunately, Social Security employees. So, but yeah, you're way ahead of the game. No, you're 64. Remember, you're limited to the amount of money you can make in terms of early retirement. 23,400. Anything over that, Social Security will hold back $1 for every $2 you go over. And remember, the first year you start your retirement benefits, it's not you can switch to a monthly. So, for instance, let's say it's May. It's a couple days, but anyway, let's say you're going to start your benefits in May. But from January till April, you made $1 billion. And you're like, wow, that's a way over 23,400. Yes. But Social Security doesn't care. It only cares about when you actually start your Social Security benefits. So if you start your Social Security benefits in May, they don't care about the $1 billion you made in the previous 4 months. They just say, okay, starting the month you start your Social Security benefits, are you going to make under $1,950? And you go, yep. And they, all right, cool. We'll start your benefits. And then you get them for the rest of the year, but you have to stay under that monthly limit for the rest of the year. And then next year, then you can't do the monthly twice. You can only do it that one time. And then, you start your benefits there. And then it's, a few months before you turn 67, you can suspend those benefits. So you get those delayed retirement credits. And then you restart your benefits at 68, 69, or 70, or whatever the case may be. And then because you are going to be starting your benefits at 64, next year at 65, they will send you your Medicare card automatically in the mail. So start checking out what you want to do. You can call my partners at Chapter. They're the ones that sponsor this Q&A, so I can help you out here. Call them up, and always, it doesn't matter who you use, always start by asking, when you're looking for a Medicare plan, whoever you talk to, say, tell me what a Medicare supplement plan is, a plan N and a plan G. Tell me the difference between those two, and then tell me about a Medicare Advantage. And that way you've got all the information. So I always hit the like button. Oh, you are too awesome. Call your local representatives and complain about cuts to Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. Yes, cuts to not necessarily Medicare, and there might be some interesting things would happen with Medicare since Dr. Oz is in there, but definitely the cuts to customer service, that prevents you from getting your benefits. So I don't consider the loss of disability benefits a good thing. It would destroy me. Yeah, in your particular case, if you are lucky enough to get to your full retirement age and they switch you to regular retirement benefits, then it would very well help you. You don't have to stress about CDRs. You can, work a little bit if you want. Remember, even if you stay below the trial work period, again, this year, the $1,160, if you stay under that, if you're able to work a little bit and, stay under that, then you never trigger that trial work period. So if you're 45 years old and you make, let's say, $1,000 a month, working at some side job or something, you can do that forever. until you hit your full retirement age where you can start making $100,000 a month. So you don't trigger that trial work period month, then it's not an issue whatsoever. So hopefully, Brian, you do lose your disability when you turn your full retirement age, and then you're free to do whatever you want. So when I am going to get my husband back pay, he passed away July 22nd of last year. How long does it take? It's been 11 months. That is way, 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 way too long. Someone dropped the ball there. If you filed a surviving spouse claim in July of last year, yeah, that I've taken hundreds of thousands of surviving spouse claims, and they take a day. Once you get all the proofs in, push the button. So, 11 days tops, but 11 months, something is definitely wrong. So, I would reach out to that Social Security office, or 11 months, I would reach out to your politician and make it a congressional. So call your politician, one of your 2 senators, call your House of Representatives, call them up and say, hey, this is completely unsatisfactory. I want my money. I need my money. And number 2, what the heck are you doing to fix Social Security, to make sure this doesn't happen to other people? So, Bella, I already had my medical CDR in November. All right. So hopefully everything went well. Yeah, don't stress about those. If you get it, you get it, you fill it out, you make copies, and you return it, and you just forget about it again. So, yeah, people stress out about CDRs, and they're just, yeah. I am 67, collecting Social Security. My ex-husband died at age 49. We were married with children 6 years. Can I collect survivor benefits, or am I just out of luck? No, he passed away at 49 years old. Your ex-husband died at 49. Okay, so you were not married to him when he passed. So this would have to be a divorced spouse, surviving divorced spouse benefit. So you had to be married to him for 10 years. If you were married to him for 10 years, you could very well collect benefits on his record as a surviving divorced spouse, up to 100% of his benefit amount. And you're already collecting Social Security benefits, so your benefit amount will offset what you will receive from his benefit. So if you were married for 10 years, yes, absolutely. Yeah, but we're married with children 6 years, but unfortunately, yeah, it looks like only 6 years. And then children, if the children are under the age of 18, then the children can get surviving child benefits. Or if any of the children became disabled before the age of 22, it's called a DAC claim, disabled adult child. If any of the children, hopefully no, but if any of the children were disabled under the age of 22, they could be eligible for benefits on his record. But hopefully that's not the case. And yeah, you said 6 years. So, and you said X. So because if it's an X, he had to be 10 years. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like. Let's see. Stop scaring the crap out of disabled people and the elderly. It's a reality. But the reality is a lot of people don't know about that their benefits have stopped. And if you knew how many people contacted me and say, hey, yeah, I could really use some extra money, but since I'm, 75 years old and on disability, I don't want to stop my disability. So I've, turned down this job and this little, working at this shop and stuff like that. And they're making their lives difficult. So how do I turn a person who is playing the disability game? How do I turn in a person who is playing the disability game? You contact Social Security, you contact the OIG, and the Office of the Inspector General, and you notify them. But remember, we used to get in my office, we used to get people, that did that, and they saw people on disability that are working. And we would investigate, and probably about 60, 70% of the time, we'd say, okay, we got notification you're working. So we'd send out the work CDR and da-da-da-da. And it turns out they were in their trial work period, or they were staying under, SGA, or staying under the trial work period. So remember, people are, but if you know someone that's, making a whole bunch of money and, working on, well, first 9 months, it doesn't matter. But yeah, if you see something based on, the work incentives, then definitely, because they're taking money away from people that really do need that money. Let's see. I just had a CDR in 2024. Should I expect another one? I will be on cancer meds for the rest of my life. I'm turning 62 this year. Should I take early retirement? And will I lose my medical Part A and Part B? All right. So I would just to have a little peace of mind, I would contact Social Security and find out what cycle you are on for those CDRs. And I don't. You're if you're taking cancer meds, I don't think you're on a yearly cycle. You're probably on a 7 year, 5 7 year or something cycle in terms of CDRs. So just for peace of mind, I would reach out to them and say, hey, what is my cycle? That way you can be prepared. But don't stress it. Don't stress CDRs until you actually get it in the mail. Turning 62, people ask that me all the time. Should I switch to retirement benefits? You can, but your benefits are going to be reduced by 30%. And because you're going to be essentially, it depends how you cancel your disability, you might lose your Medicare. And you can restart it again based on age at 65. But no, people ask me that all the time. Probably about 0.0001% of people do what you're talking about, getting off disability and going to regular retirement at 62, 63, 64. And the reason they do is because they're don't want to be categorized as disabled, or they want to not have to worry about CDRs, or they want to work a little bit more. And early retirement, you're able to work a little bit more. But it's 99.99 whatever percent just stay on disability. Because if you switch from disability to 62, then you're just going to get retirement benefits, but it's going to be reduced by 30% because you're filing early. So just keep on keeping on. So let's see. Somebody's answering someone else's question. I appreciate it. I would trade my 2 cancers for health again. Yes, yeah. Eddie Money. All right. The real Eddie Money. Ticket to Ride. I just got my first, anyway, I forget what the song is. I just got my first Social Security check after switching from SSI. Yeah, switching from SSI. I don't think this is a real Eddie Money. After switching from SSI, why did I receive a full Social Security SSI check the same day that I got my regular Social Security? Was this a mistake or the transaction payment? Yeah, it really depends on the timing. So you were on SSI and probably you reached 62 years old. And when you turn 62, Social Security says, hey, you have to file for any benefits you're eligible for. And it sounds like you were eligible for retirement benefits at 62. So they made you take that. So it's they do it by, calendar month. And so you can reach out to them and they can check to make sure they gave you the right check on the right month. But if it's only 1 month like that, you can just kind of let it ride, and maybe just, if you can't get a hold of them, just put that money in the bank, and, and that way when they come back later and say, oh, we, paid you a little bit extra that month, and so we need it back. But then you can set up a payment plan and get it paid back over 60 months. So, yeah. But you can call them up and find out, and they'll look exactly whether, they credited it the correct month. That's a little bit difficult. I can't help you with that without looking at your record. And obviously I have no access to MBRs anymore. So my husband died on January 1st. Oh, so sorry. I'm his survived spouse. He retired at 62. I have my own benefit. I'm 69. Do I get his benefit as a survivor and keep my benefits as well? All right. So you can switch to survivor benefits. So I would definitely call Social Security and find out if the survivor benefits are more than yours. And because you're 69, they'll probably just add it on there. Because you already started benefits on your own record. You're not going to be able to, switch over. And so I would do this as soon as possible, because, the benefit on his record is not increasing. Survivor benefits like that don't increase, other than, COLA and stuff. But it doesn't increase on waiting after your full retirement age. So I would call Social Security immediately, and do it yeah, do it immediately. Run to the phone right now and get on that phone and start calling them. Um, and that way you don't lose any months. And if there are extra benefits, they should start those extra benefits in January. Um, yeah, they should start him in January. I'm thinking maybe in December because he passed away on January 1st, but probably in January they're going to go ahead and start those benefits if they're more than what you're currently getting. So again, not what you're currently getting, what your primary insurance amount is. So what is the full retirement age of born in 59? That was what, 66 and 10 months or something like that. So let's see. Tammy, the truth hurts. 800 billion being cut from Medicaid will hurt so many working class Americans. That is a fact. That is 100% a fact. If they're going to go after fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid, more power to them. Is there a lot of fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid? Absolutely. But you just don't, cut the whole thing. It's like saying, hey, my kid eats too much junk food. I think I'll just stop giving the kid food. I'll cut 50% of my kids' food, and maybe that'll prevent them from, eating junk food. That's just called bad parenting. So, wow, some of these trolls are chasing their own tails. All right, we got some troll. I'm always looking for trolls. I love interacting with trolls. It's the old Marine Corps sergeant in me. I like being attacked. Can you work at 69? What will happen? I was told they cut my medical. All right, so medical, they're not going to cut your Medicare. They're not going to cut your Social Security benefits because you're past your full retirement age. They can only increase it, because you're paying more into Social Security. But you said medical. So if you have Medicaid or Medi-Cal, what they call it in California, or Apple Care or Badger Care, it's different states call it different things. But if you have Medicaid, then possibly, because Medicaid is a income resource limited welfare-based program, and it really depends how much your retirement benefits that you're receiving, what other pensions or IRAs or whatever, and your income that you're going to get from work. So I wouldn't stop checking that out. I would call your state Medicaid, again, if that's what you're talking about. I would call them and say, hey, I only make $1,200 from Social Security, and my rent is this much, and I need a little bit more income, but I want to make, I don't want my Medicaid to stop. How much can I make? If I make another $100, $200, $300 a month, will that stop my Medicaid? And if they say no, it's as long as you stay under this amount for the entire month, then you're good. Then I would go out there and do it. But one thing I caution is, anytime Social Security anybody gives you that number, like the trial work period is $1,160. Technically, you can make $1,160 if you actually want to go up to that amount. I guess trial work period is a bad example because you can go over it and do that 9 months. Let's say the substantial gainful activity or whatever Medicaid tells you. If they say, okay, you can make $1,500 a month and you're still good forever, then maybe I wouldn't do the 1,500. I would stay a little bit under, because in terms of Social Security disability, if you go right up to the line, that's kind of a red flag that this person is able to work. They know what the number is, and they're working right up to the line. Maybe I bet you they could work a little bit over the line, and then they get kicked off of disability, but they know that line. So just to be on the safe side, I would stay a tad bit under those lines. Again, do whatever you want to do, but I'm just, based on my experience, not a bad, rule of thumb. My birthday certificate says I was born the day after the Social Security has on record. Should I be concerned and changed it? Yeah, it's always good to correct the date of birth. Because the Social Security system interacts with the IRS, and if you're already receiving benefits, it's not going to affect your Social Security benefits or anything unless you're born on the 1st or something. But anyway, but regardless, sometimes I've seen when you file your taxes or something like that, the IRS kicks it back because your Social Security number which has your date of birth internally, doesn't match. So, but if you're, 75, 85 years old and you've been receiving benefits and you've never had a problem, then, forget about it. But, kind of just be prepared. And it's super, super easy to fix. Super easy to fix. You get your original birth certificate. You download an SS5, which is a application for a social security card. This is how you get it fixed. And you submit the birth certificate with the social security thing. So SS5, and they will update the date of birth. Super, super easy. So not an issue. 500,000 people lost Social Security benefits. Yeah, close to 1 million are going to lose Social Security benefits this year, and hopefully a lot of them lose it for a good reason, that they're switched to retirement, that they made it to full retirement age. Every day above ground is a beautiful day, right? So if you're able to, old Richard Pryor's say, people don't get to be old by being fools. Well, I think he might have been wrong in that. Anyway, anyone who hits FRA doesn't do a CDR or any kind of penalty for making over a certain amount to Social Security. The IRS is another matter. So you are 100% correct. Yes, the IRS is definitely, the first part is correct, and the last part you said is correct. Yeah. I would love to work, and I was told they would cut my medical, and in order to keep it, I can't make over $2,000 a month that include my Social Security check. Okay, yeah, so you have Medicaid. So yeah, that's a whole different ball of wax. And there was an attempt, there was a bill, because the things like the Medicaid, for example, it's yes or no. You're eligible for or Medicaid, yes or no. And here's what happens when the COLA comes out every year. It's like a couple of years ago. This was, people are like 8.7% COLA increase. Awesome, awesome. But there was a lot of people, thousands, tens of thousands of people that hated the 8.7% COLA increase because it put them over, like yours, True Blue 65, you're in your state, you can't go over 2,000. So let's say you get an 8.7% increase of COLA, and now you're getting $2,001. And because you're getting that extra dollar over that, your Medicaid stops. And you have all kinds of other, monthly expenses now. You have to pay more for your medication. You have to pay for your medical benefits. You lose your Medicare Advantage, those grocery cards that you were getting $200 a month because you're no longer eligible for Medicaid. And because you're getting an extra total of $16, $17 or something, you lose $400 of benefits every month. And so there was a bill that didn't go anywhere in Congress. They said, it shouldn't be 0 or 100%. If you're, just get a few dollars over, then maybe they can, just cut it back by, 25% or 50% or 75% rather than cutting the entire thing. But unfortunately, that didn't go anywhere. Probably because we didn't know about it. Nobody knew about it, and they didn't contact their politicians. So reach out to your politicians. But now with the $800 billion that they're looking to cut from Medicaid, if that happens, then a lot of people are going to be kicked off of Medicaid. Guaranteed, 100% guaranteed. If they cut back the budget for Medicaid, because that Medicaid is state and federal monies. And if the federal government says, "Hey, we're going to cut, $80 billion a year from your Medicaid budget," then there's a bunch of states that will just kick people off, across the board, and it's a lot of repercussions. So remember, those people that have Medicaid, if you also have Medicare, those people also might lose their Medicare benefits, because if you have Medicaid, the higher levels of Medicaid, the state might be paying for your Medicare Part B premium. And if they kick you off Medicaid, you have to pay the $185 yourself. And some people just can't pay that. And so they stop Part B of Medicare because they can't pay it, and which is a terrible thing. So they lose Medicaid, they lose Medicare, and they just hope they don't get sick or injured or something like that. And so that's one terrible scenario. And the other is, if they lose Medicaid, they also lose their Medicare Advantage dual eligible plan. And some of those plans, depending on where you are, those are the ones with the grocery cards, and people, really depend on that extra $100 or $200 or $300 from whatever grocery card is available in your particular area. And there's a lot of scammy advertising on that stuff, but they do exist. But yeah, they're advertised in a real scammy way. But you can, call Chapter or whoever, helps you out with Medicare and see if one of those available in your area. I'm on Social Security. Only I have a heart attack. So long story short on that one, Colin, if you don't want Medicaid to stop, if it doesn't apply to you, and I don't care, I don't get Medicaid. Think about those people around you. Call your politicians and say, yes, you should look for fraud, waste, and abuse in Medicaid, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Come on. I'm on Social Security. Only I have a heart attack, had cancer 2 times, 2 feet surgery. Wow. And 2 bad knees. Could I get on SSD? I'm 75. No, nobody gets Social Security disability after their full retirement age. Yeah. So, SSI is a totally separate system. So SSI is the welfare-based program, low income, low resources. So if you're eligible for that, you can get up to $967 from SSI, supplemental security income. But if your retirement benefits now are basically over $967, then you're not qualified. So, but if your Social Security benefits, retirement benefits are like $500, then definitely apply for SSI. SSI, supplemental security income, you can get based on being disabled or aged. Being aged means being 65 or older. So, but you only get 967, and pretty much anything else you get is offset. Love your haters, Dr. Ed. Yes. Friend worked Rush Limbaugh's radio show, 84 million per year, and revealed 25% of his listeners hated his guts and listened to yell at the radio. Yeah, right. All right. I'm married, so I'm used to somebody hating me. No. My friend worked in the old FERS system. FERS? He was a furrier? You mean FERS, F-E-R-S. Can she draw Social Security from her husband? Yeah, the FERS has no relevance whatsoever to Social Security at all. So no relevance at all. If she worked under the old CSRS, it was relevant until a few months ago. Now it's no longer relevant because of the Social Security Fairness Act. So I know 3 people on SSI disability, and they are still getting their check with no problem. Perfect. Good. So that means so they're not deceased. Their disability unfortunately did not improve. They're not working, and they're not, well, if they're on SSI, even with SSI, their disability will stop at 65, and their disability benefits from SSI, and then they'll be switched to SSI aged. So those 3 people, if they're actually receiving SSI because you wrote SSI, their disability benefits will stop at 65, guaranteed, 100%. So a week after the CDR, I ended up in the hospital again for 3 weeks, colon cancer, surgery, 6 inch. Social Security watches any hospitalizations, always contact Social Security with new medical diagnosis. Yeah, I wouldn't do it before your CDR because there's just going to be, keep all that paperwork. If you are on a CDR cycle, again, I'm coming up with kind of a worksheet on that to kind of, make yourself a binder, and I'll put in all the examples and stuff. But keep that paperwork. Get yourself a binder, put that stuff in there, and that way when your CDR comes in, you got no stress. You're not, shuffling around. Oh, when did I go this? When did I do that? Just make notes on there, include that in there. Because if you send it in there before your CDR, there's nothing internally to attach it to, realistically. So they'll look at it and they'll say, there's nothing pending. Why did this person send in this medical records? I've got 400 other people in the lobby to take care of. So they just might shred it, and it's just a waste of time in your case. So that's an insider trick. I've never qualified for Medicare on SSI disability, 61 years old. Yes. If you are on SSI disability, that means correct. You only get Medicare after being on SSDI disability for 2 years. But on SSI, because SSI, you didn't pay into, the Medicare, you're not eligible for Medicare. Um, but, but you're on SSI disability, maybe you're entitled to Social Security benefits when you turn 62. So if you're entitled to regular retirement benefits at 62, they're going to make you sign up for regular retirement benefits to offset SSI. And then at 65, if you did pay into the system, you'll be eligible for Medicare at 65. Or if you're receiving SSI, you're categorically eligible for Medicaid in most states. So if you're receiving Medicaid from whatever state you're in, because you're on SSI, sometimes the states will actually pay for Medicare because it's cheaper for them. So the state looks, their accountants look at it and say, hey, this person cost us $10,000 a month to take care of their disability, but of their medical health issues. And this comes out of the state Medicaid budget. If we paid this person's Medicare, I don't think this is your, because you're only 61, but if someone's 65 and they're eligible for Medicare, and if we paid for this person's Medicare, even though they're not eligible for it, we paid for their Part A. Yes, there is a charge for Part A if you didn't pay into Medicare. It's like $400 or $500. And then we also pay for their Part B, the $185. That's $600, $700, $800 is cheaper than $10,000 a month. So sometimes that's a trick that a lot of people don't realize. And then because you're like, I don't care whether the state says money. It's good for that person because then you'll have Medicare and Medicaid, and then you might be able to get one of those Medicare Advantage dual eligible plans with the extra money and the transportation and yada 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 and all those extra benefits. All right. We got someone that says that they're confused. I was told I can make up to $1,620 a month on SSDI a month. Why am I getting a letter from SSI if I am making $1,600 a month? I received a $82.40. So it doesn't count. So people wonder on all of this type of stuff. They say, well, I'm working, I'm making $1,000 a month, plus I'm getting a Social Security check for $1,600. So I'm getting $2,600. So does that $2,600 count against the annual earnings limit and all that? No. It only counts the work part of it. So if you're making $1,600 a month, and yes, you are allowed up to $1,620. It just, you were flagged. So they're sending out a work CDR, and just to confirm everything is correct. So your local Social Security office got an alert that you were working, no problem. They want that. If this is your first 9 months and you're still in your trial work period, it's no issue. So you just fill out the form and tell them, yes. Remember, it's gross. So if you're saying you're making $1,600 take home, then you're making over because it's gross wages. So hopefully that's not the issue. But yeah, just fill out the form, make copies of it, submit it to your local Social Security office. And as long as you're under the $1,600 gross, you've got no issues whatsoever. So just keep on keeping on. It's a beautiful thing. They canceled my SSDI for going over the SGA during the months with 5 weeks. They want me to pay back the $39,000 since 2022. I never knew it was that way. Never went over in a 4-week month. All right. Yeah. So if you were in your extended period of eligibility and every month over the SGA, they essentially stop that benefit amount. But it looks as though if you've got an overpayment of about $40,000, it looks as though they went back all the way and said, hey, based on your work pattern, we are saying that you no longer became disabled 2 years ago, and that's why you have a $40,000. But on this particular case, yes, if it's just because you worked over the SGA, a few months of the year with those 5-week months, Social Security can do an averaging where some people, have their income kind of go up and down, based on, the gig economy or whatever the case may be. So you can request. So on this one right here, I would do it a couple of ways. Submit an SSA 561. That's a request for reconsideration. So you're saying Social Security is completely wrong about this, and put your case. It sounds like it's going to be a little bit more detailed. So on the 561, there's only about 3 lines up there, and just on the front of the page, put your name, Social Security number, your phone number, address, and stuff like that, and just put "See attached." And then get another piece of paper and then write out your story. Type it out. It's always best to type it out. That way it's easier. My handwriting, it looks like a 3-year-old, so nobody can read it. So I always type it out. And then put down your argument. And then if what you're saying is what you're saying, it's only because of those 5 weeks month, ask them to average your earnings over the year. And that way that'll level out those 5-week months with the other months, and then you should be under the substantial gainful activity for those particular months. And then if for whatever reason you lose that battle, then request for reconsideration, appeal that decision, and then appeal that decision all the way to the administrative law judge or beyond. In the meantime, if they disagree with you and they say you do owe the $40,000, then set up some type of payment plan, whatever the case may be, try to get it or tell them to suspend collection. Everything like that is changing right now because of Doge and everything, but they might be able to suspend collection until you have your day in court. So, it couldn't be the real Eddie Money. He died in 2019. Does it take it to paradise? What's that? I forget. Anyway, I forget that. Let's see. Tammy, hello. I received SSDI, would get much more when it's time for me to retire at 67. No. Your SSDI is basically your benefit amount at your full retirement age. So it's the same amount. Yep. Obviously, if a lot of people mistaken that because they say, no, it's not, Ed, because I looked at my Social Security statement a few years ago and it said I would receive at my full retirement age $2,000, and I'm on disability. I only receive $1,800. So Ed doesn't know what he's talking about. No, your statement a few years ago that you did on my Social Security is projected future earnings. So if you file for disability and were approved for disability 2 years ago, your benefit amount is your benefit amount at your full retirement age. And that's the number. But the number you receive, the estimate on your My Social Security thing is projected. So it says, okay, you're 2 or 3 or 4 years from full retirement age. If you continue working, it says right in there in the My Social Security, that little estimate, if it says you continue working at current levels, it adds those current levels into this year and next year and 2 years ago, or 2 years in the future and 3 years in the future. And that's how it comes up with the $2,000. So it adds because you started disability, you stopped working. And so you don't get that next year and 2 years and 3 years in the future. You don't get that added in there. That's why those are different. So a lot of people miss that, and they call me an idiot, but that's just my wife again. So, let's see, what other kind of, stop Social Security by paying out what everyone put in with their company's matching contributions, then add the 3% for however many years they worked. Okay. My stepsister gets SSDI. Her mom is a retired police officer and was planning to leave her money from a trust. She was told they would lose her SSDI and insurance if she accepted that inheritance. True or false? SSDI, no, false. SSDI, she could win $1 billion lottery, get $1 billion from inheritance. It doesn't affect SSDI at all. If she's receiving SSI, the welfare-based program, yes, but SSDI, no. Insurance, would she lose her insurance? Yeah, I'm not. If Medicare, no relevance whatsoever. Medicaid, yes, because that is a welfare-based program. So, Let's see. I get a letter every year asking to sign a request for Social Security to see my medical records, etc. I send it in, and then they say we will not need to do it this year for you this year. Was a waste of everyone's time. LOL. Yes. And this is why exactly. Thank you, P. Marie B. This is a perfect example of why I tell people do not stress CDRs, those continuing disability reviews, because it is a budget issue. Congress allocates X amount of money every year to give to Social Security to do X amount of CDRs. And if your time is this year, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do a CDR this year. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Am I going to lose my disability benefits? Don't worry about it. Even if it's your time, if your local office doesn't have the budget to do it, they ain't going to do it. And even if they send it to you, they have a quota, based on how, okay, you've got the budget to do 100 CDRs this year in your office. And they send you the packet and you're number 101, they're like, we don't have the budget to do anything after 100. We've only got a budget to do 100. We can't do the 101, so we're not going to, even though P. Marie B., this is probably what happened. She sent in the packet and they'd already filled their quota, so they shredded it. And in the meantime, they freaked you out. So that's why I say, forget about it, complete it, forget about it. So yeah, Social Security does a great job at freaking people out. But anyway, I'm on SSI. Can you tell me what to do? I need 2 points. What should I do? I was told to be careful. I could lose altogether. What does that mean? Yeah, if you're on SSI, most of the stuff I talked about today was on SSDI. If you're on SSI, the welfare-based program, then the disability is the same. Disability criteria, qualifications and everything is the same. But in terms of SSI, because it's a welfare-based benefit, pretty much any money you get come in will offset your SSI. So there is, no real trial work period and all that kind of stuff. You can still go back to, try to work, but with SSI, any type of money you get coming in. I'm going to be adding that section to my my website as well. SSI is a completely different beast. So to kind of help you out, I would contact the Social Security and say, hey, I'm on SSI. How much am I receiving on SSI versus am I receiving SSDI and SSI, because that's possible. A lot of people miss stuff like that. There are one person can receive SSI, SSDI, survivor benefits, Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare Advantage dual eligible plan, the extra help with prescription drugs, the Medicare savings program where they pay for your 185. One person can receive all that, but a lot of people miss pieces of the puzzle. And that's why I do these crazy videos on a daily basis. But contact Social Security and ask them about your particular case and find out what the limitations. But when you call the general number, you get a generalist. I would ask for the AWIC. An AWIC is called the Area Work Incentives Coordinator. And there are people in your area, maybe not in your particular office, but somewhere in your state probably, that is supposedly should be an expert, unless they've been, Doge fired them or move them out of the agency. Hopefully there's someone in that position, and that's their job, is the Area Work Incentives Coordinator, to help with stuff like that. Actually the person we do, Mai Jackson, who retired, was kind of voluntold to kind of leave the agency. She's helping people now, and she does appointments. I used to do appointments. We do charge for that, unfortunately. That's the only thing we do charge for. Got to pay the electric bill somehow. If people have issues, she can help with that. But in your case, because you're receiving SSI, I would find the AWIC, AWIC, in your particular area and talk to them, and they'll walk you through the entire process. And again, once I get my website up, hopefully there'll be more information on there in English to help you through it. I wish I could get those medical cards. I went with a company and they don't have them in my area. I got to figure out a different one next year, maybe. Yeah, uh, there are the enrollment periods for Medicare are a nightmare. There's Medicare Part A and Part B enrollment periods, and then you've got Medicare supplement, which you can actually change your Medicare supplement any time of the year. If you're healthy, and healthy is relative, you might be able to find a cheaper Medicare supplement plan, get a cheaper G or a cheaper N, or move from an N to a G or a G to an N or an F to an N, G, whatever. It depends on your particular state and how healthy you are. And you can reach out to Chapter, see if you can save money on that one. But Medicare Advantage plans, Part D, there are limited times. But if you move, you lose your Medicaid. There's all kinds of different weird times. Maybe you can switch early. So yeah, you can reach out to Chapter and they can help you. And they're 100% free. They don't charge you anything. Sam McCool. My mom made $100 too much to get Medicaid, so she had to pay $1,500 a month for deductibles after insurance for her medicines. It almost forced her into a nursing home to get her medicine. Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about. Yeah. They increase your benefit and you're like, oh yeah, I got extra money, but then you lose $1,500. But $1,500 a month so one of the good things is now with the Part D, there is that cap. There is no, donut hole for the prescription drug plan anymore. Now there's a cap based on the Inflation Reduction Act. It took effect this year. So the max you can pay out of pocket is $2,000. So yeah, so she doesn't have to pay $1,500 a month for deductibles anymore for her Part D, if that's what she actually has. So it's 2000. And there's also this new thing that started this year. It's called smoothing. It's basically, let's say your mother has to pay $2,000 a month for her prescriptions, and because of the new law, that's it. She only pays up to $2,000, but she has to pay that in January because her month of medicines is $2,000. So people are like, yeah, I gotta come out with $2,000 in 1 month. No, because of this smoothing thing, you contact your Medicare Advantage or your Part D plan or whatever and say, smooth me. And what they will do is they say, okay, yeah, you have to pay $2,000 max, but we won't make you pay it in 1 month. We will set up a kind of a payment plan, smooth you over the 12-month period. So you'll pay a little bit in January, February, March, April. So that makes life a lot easier for a lot of people out there. So make sure you reach out to those people that could apply to. All right. As usual, I have way too many questions and just not enough time. So let me grab one more question from someone that, okay. We've got an internet myth here. I was told today that the president deposited $3 trillion into Social Security. Do you know if this is true? As always, thank you for all you do. No, that is not true. I'm not sure where that internet myth came from. Yeah, no, not sure where he got that money or anything. Yeah, no, that is not true. Nope. I have an appointment with Social Security next week for psychological testing. How fast can I get approved for SSI, SSDI, and Medicaid? Yeah, all bets are off nowadays because they're so short staffed. So unfortunately, it's going to take you probably 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times longer than normal circumstances. And Social Security has been slowly, Congress has been beating the heck out of Social Security for decades now, and they're at a 50-year low in terms of staffing before DOGE even took effect. But yeah, there's no way to tell. It depends on the particular state. Some states are quicker than others. People with psychological issues, those cases take longer than others. But number one thing I have to tell you is go there, make sure you do your appointment. Make sure you make it to your appointment on time and all that stuff. And just be honest. Just be 100% honest. A lot of people go there and they, they kind of front a little bit and, they try to be tough. And so they don't tell people, the doctor what your real issue is. And you say, well, I've got this issue, but I can kind of, I can tough through it sometimes. Okay. If you can tough through it all the time, that's fine. But be honest, tell them what your real, limitations are. Be 100% brutally honest. Don't try to be, superhero or something. Tell them what your situation is. So, And good luck to you. All right, that is it for tonight. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get any more questions, but I will be back again tomorrow. And thank you all. And thank you for taking care of